Hello and welcome to the Big Ideas Show. I'm Liu Batchelor and today we are joined by Cherry Truluck. Hello, how's it going?
Hi Leanne, good.
Good. So you are Custom Folkestone, aren't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell the people out there a little bit about what is Custom and what do you do?
Custom Folkestone is an artist-led food project and we're based on the Harbour Arm in Folkestone.
Awesome. Right, we're going to be hearing more about that after these titles. Thank you for joining us here on the Big Ideas Show. The show all about getting under the skin and finding out the mindset and motivation behind people doing great local projects. We're here at the Grand in Folkestone for the filming tonight of the show. And we continue our theme of food for thought with Cherry from Custom Folkestone. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I've heard so much amazing things about all the stuff you're doing. And it's actually been over kind of a number of months, even years, because you've done lots of things, haven't you? I'm going to kind of prefix some of it because there's lots, and then we can get really in depth on kind of some of the newer stuff. But you had a pie company,
Yeah,
is that right?
That's right.
You ran Eastcliff Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You also won Folkestone Soup, didn't you? That's where I first heard about you. And then now you're doing Custom Folkestone, which started, you kind of properly got up and running fairly recently, didn't you?
Yeah, October
Okay.
2018, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And you're a really values-rich company, aren't you? Mm-hmm. From the stuff I've seen and heard, and I probably couldn't do it justice myself. So I'm going to ask you kind of what are the various elements of all of the stuff that you bring into the work that you do?
Well, the best way that we summarise it is with a hashtag we use, which is Eat, Art, Barter.
Yep.
So that's really the three strands of our practice. So at the centre of it is Eat, which is the restaurant practice that we have. So we have a 22-seat space on the Harbour Arm in a converted container. And in that space, we serve hyper-locally sourced food. So we have a real agenda about using stuff that's from the community that we operate in and accessing the knowledge and the amazing food stuff that you can get from this part of the country and really learning what that community is and how the food interacts with that community. But then either side of that central practice, we've got the art program and the bartering program. So the art program, fairly self-explanatory. It's a program of arts events and exhibitions and interactive elements, and all of those elements reflect on the food practice that we have and also the bartering practice, because I come from an arts background and I see art as a really important method of research. It's like a really practical way and a visual way sometimes, and a very accessible way of really learning about and examining what you're doing.
Okay.
And then on the other side, we have our bartering program, which is the way that we interact with our community. So we invite people through a system of call-outs, mostly for vegetables, to bring ingredients into the restaurant kitchen. And for each contribution, we have a specific barter, a negotiation, and in exchange people can come and eat in the space as a result of that negotiation.
Really nice. There's so many questions I could ask you now about all of the various strands, but I think the easiest way to kind of, I guess, get an overarching picture and kind of hear a little bit more is to kind of really ask you about your story and why you started it up and kind of how that's led to the values that and the ideas that you're really exploring here.
So yeah, that is quite a long one, quite a big question. I've got quite a convoluted background that came through. Like I say, it's mostly in the arts. I trained as an architect originally, so I'm really interested in the way that spaces work with society, with social spaces. And I then moved into theatre design, which is obviously the same sort of base practical skills, but I was really particularly excited about theatre, about the performance and the activation of space. And I think both of those things really relate to how we work in the restaurant industry, but also how we eat meals in our own home. So I was really interested in those interactions between people and the spaces that they interact in. So all of that has come through definitely to what I'm doing now. But also alongside that, my family, my mum taught me how to cook. She comes from a long line of Yorkshire women who, generation by generation, taught each other to cook. I was tested at 7 years old on my roast dinner by my great aunt Mary.
Oh my God.
Who also taught me to make piccalilli, and it's really good. So I have that in my blood anyway. I've had that, like I say, since I was really quite small. So all of those things are running alongside each other. My mum's also a professional cook. She has a catering business. So I'd been doing that alongside all of my own arts practice. And then when we moved to Kent and had a baby, everything changed, as it does when you have a family. Yeah. And it wasn't feasible for me to work in theatre anymore. Mm-hmm. So we had a big rethink, and the thing that came through immediately was, well, this is a thing I know how to do. And also a huge surge of hormones and the things that happen when you have a baby. I just wanted to feed the world. So that's when we set up the pie company, and then the food took over from there.
Okay, awesome. And so with this arts element, I want to kind of start with that one. Can you give us some examples of how the art and the food come together? Because you talk about, like, you know, growing up with food and that more traditional side, and then it sounds like you're taking it in a completely new and unique and creative way. How does that work in reality? What does it kind of look like?
Really new and unique and creative. That would be great. Our first season, which was October to December last year, was called Vessel. So we worked with a whole series of different artists, and at the centre of the season, we had an open studio, which was a residency with ceramicist Jules de Groot, and she ran a series of workshops where people were welcome to come and have a one-on-one session with her, and they made vessels for custom, and it became a really nice cyclical process because the workshop was free, and then at the end of it, we had a sale at an it's a winter solstice event that we did called the Locavore Festive Feast. And Jules had all of the work that she had made, but also the people who had joined in the workshops had also made. And so people could buy their own work back if they wanted to. And anything that wasn't sold back, we bought to use in the restaurant. So everything came back in the end to the space that it was made in.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I loved hearing about the art side, but I want to hear next a little bit more about the community side and how that translates into, I know you're a social enterprise, how that then translates into the work you kind of give out to others. But we're going to have a little break now. We're going to come back after that. Welcome back. I am still joined by Cherry from Custom Folkestone. And Cherry, I've loved hearing about how you bring so many different elements together. I mean, for me, being someone who kind of, you know, doesn't know much about food, but the way you bring these different things together and look at stuff completely differently that I would never imagine is really inspiring. So I really love that. But I want to hear next a little bit more about the community element. I've heard you've got lots of exciting kind of an itinerary and projects coming up in your program. Can you tell us a little bit about that element, please?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, the barter part of our ethos is really the main community side that we have. So one of the things that we brought to Custom was this idea that already within this community is this incredibly rich source of knowledge, this, not just knowledge but also produce. Amazing. I mean, it's the Garden of England, so you couldn't start in a better place. But what also I was really aware of was that a lot of our producers are very squeezed on what they're able to produce because they obviously have to hit certain commercial targets. And whilst we have incredible stuff from our producers, alongside us in the allotments where we have space, there's other stuff growing that you'd never be able to get from big scale producers. And we really wanted to be able to tap into that and really tap into the local knowledge. Because I think when you start those conversations, it's the same sort of conversations you have with your family around the table about, you know, the food that you're being presented with. And those connections are really what builds community. And that's something that we really wanted to tap into. So as well as extending out, hopefully, into lots of allotments and gardens and through our bartering process, we've also got our own garden at Custom, our Locavore garden, which we're running as a community project. We've got funding from the Red Eagle Foundation, a local charity, and also from Kent Community Foundation and the Folkestone Town Grant. And so we have a gardener there 1 day a week, and she's working with volunteers from Touchbase at the moment, and the Beacon School soon. And we're hoping to build that group of volunteers. And they'll be growing vegetables which we can use in the kitchen so that we can start to create a whole cycle there so that they can see the volunteers can see the process from literally from planting the seeds to it being put on the table.
Yeah, wonderful.
So going forward,
Yeah.
we, as I've said earlier, we have this idea about hyperlocal sourcing. Obviously, having a garden right next to our kitchen is part of that. But also, we're really keen to think about this idea of locavorism.
Okay.
So that's about, as you might imagine, the idea of eating locally, or eating in a hyperlocal sense. But it's also about having that real sense of how our community is not an island. And we're connected out to all of those other communities who also have this incredible network of knowledge. And that if we don't make those links, if we don't see ourselves as one part of a huge network of communities, then we weaken what we can actually offer. So again, tying back to some of your other guests and ideas about sustainability, that's something that we're really keen on thinking about, how what we're doing now and the sort of definition of sustainability is about satisfying present needs whilst also making allowances for and understanding what's going to be needed in the future. And hopefully this year we're going to be really looking at that in that sense of the wider picture and the bigger network.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, because in Folkestone particularly we've got a very diverse community, haven't we? So I imagine there must be loads of stories, techniques, approaches, both practically from a food sense and an artistic sense, that can all feed into and create this wonderful mix of different things.
Yeah, so we're going to be running our arts programme this year around themes about migration of food, migration of ideas, and also looking at really complex issues to do with decolonisation, and all of the issues that have created politics around food and the movement of food around the world. So, yeah.
Lots of stuff coming up. It sounds really exciting. So if people want to come along to kind of one of your events, come and eat with you, how do they do it? How do they find out more info?
Well, on our website, we've got 3 pages, Eat, Art and Barter. So you can find out about those 3 different strands. Some of the things cross over, obviously. We'll be starting to do a series of community meals this year. And we're hoping to work for each meal with a different person from a different part of the community. So, for example, one of those is the artist Aida Silvestri, who's an Eritrean artist based in Folkestone. So she'll be hosting a meal which is based around Eritrean food. So that's the way we plan to do those meals. And our arts programme will be, well, it's not quite finished yet, but when it's ready, it will be up on the art page on our website. And the bartering page will show you exactly what we're calling out for this week, so you can respond to that, and by going to the website, which is customfolkstone.co.uk.
Brilliant. And they can find you on all the social channels.
They can.
As well.
It's Custom Folkestone.
Easy to find.
On all of that.
Brilliant. Cherry, thank you so much, and good luck for the future of Custom. Thank you. And thank you out there for tuning in. You've been listening to the Big Ideas Show, and I want to say a big thank you to the Grand in Folkestone for hosting us tonight. I've also got to say a big thank you to our sponsors, the Glass Whiteboard Company, who have been supporting us for a long time now, and our contributors who bring you these wonderful films. They are Hacks from Prisma Broadcast, Aaron from 6'2", and Warren from Flourish, and our awesome crew behind the cameras. We have Maddie, Hannah, Harry, and Gary, so big thank you to them. And if you out there would like to be involved in the Big Ideas Show, we are always looking for inspiring guests and projects. Maybe that's you, or it's someone you know. And likewise, if you'd like to help us share these amazing people's stories, then get in touch. We're always looking for people who can help us distribute the show. That's all we've got time for today, but if you tune in to the rest of the month, there are loads more interviews with amazing people around the theme of food for thought. That's all we've got time for today, so I'll see you next time.